540 and the Big 550 KTRS. Next hour, we're going to check in with Scott Sherman. Right now, though, we need to check in with the editorial page editor of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, Gail Pennington. Gail, good morning this morning. Deb Peterson, are you there?
Yes, I am.
I'm sorry.
Second of all, thanks for the promotion. I'm not the editor, but Tony can be surprised.
I'm a little.
For two on your part.
I dropped the ball. I was going to your webpage, stltoday.com/news/opinion,
Yeah.
and they run the TV show on that page. So I was trying to hit the down button on the video so the audio wouldn't play while I'm trying to hit the button while I'm trying to put my headphones on. So I got a little confused.
We don't need to know how your mind works. It's a scary trip right there.
Yes, it is.
Good morning, McGraw, Brennan. No. Oh.
Wow.
That was cute, wasn't it?
I'd be offended, but since no one knows who he is, I'm not that offended.
Okay.
Let's talk a little Charlie Dooley.
Well, it's always a good topic for
I think the fact that Bob Soutier and the Labor Council pulling their support for Charlie Dooley is kind of a really big deal.
I agree with you, and I think there's a second meaning here that hasn't yet been explored, which is that if Mayor Francis Slay is supporting Charlie Dooley, at least on the surface, we understand he wants Charlie to be the executive, and it's believed that it's all part of his plan to combine, reunite the city and the county, and then I guess he would be king of it all, which is fine because he's been a good mayor, and, I think we all think reuniting is a good idea. And the thinking, again, being that if Charlie Dooley remains county executive, the mayor has a lot of influence with Mr. Dooley. Well, Labor supports Mr. Slay. So if Labor takes its support away from Mr. Dooley, does this mean that this is some indication of the mayor withdrawing some sort of his support for Mr. Dooley? That's my thinking.
Yeah, it's maybe Labor just said, look, there are too many scandals, too many things, too many questions, and maybe it's just time, for a little new blood.
I don't think anything is ever that simple in politics. It's always wheels within wheels within wheels. But this is not to diminish the number of problems that are currently going on in the Dooley administration. And one of the most offensive being Mr. Dooley himself saying, in regard to the police board and the contract with Greg Sansone, former chairman of the police board, I have nothing to do with contracts. I just stay away from those. You know what? The buck stops here. You're the county executive. If it's a contract and he got involved to the point where he had Patricia Reddington and he himself saying, no conflict. But when in fact, the FBI is looking at it and things started to hit the fan, then suddenly he's not saying no conflict. What he's saying is, I don't touch those things. Can't have it both ways.
I mean, think about this. We have a county executive where the FBI is investigating, and we know that the police chief is actually helping the FBI with the investigation.
Yes, and the county executive plotting against the police chief because he doesn't like that he squealed on him, or at least alerted, I shouldn't say that, I don't mean that in a punitive way, but that he alerted federal authorities that there were some problems. Yeah. There are bad things going on. Secondly, I think there was a report in the paper yesterday or the day before, maybe it was the day before, that the Children's Service Fund, which has been, our tax dollars, they spend, I forgot how much is in it, 100 million, 102 million. It's a great cause. It's funds that go to kids who are homeless, help them achieve some educational attainment, get settled in more, in better situations. They fund organizations that do this. We voted for it, our tax dollars. Well, that fund is, there's been a Dooley friend put in. It's rife with cronyism. And then yesterday there's this report that they are they're reinventing what makes a quorum so that they can have fewer people. They can get their, their grants made with fewer eyes on them because they can't get enough people qualified who aren't part of, I guess, some, a Dooley friendship, a Dooley crony.
Dooley keeps appointing people, and those people can't get approved because they're already connected in some other way, and so you can't. He's not electing and or appointing independent people to the point where no one's on this board. They can't give any money out because they don't have a quorum, so they decided to change the quorum rules.
You got it, because they all have so much conflict that they can't vote on this. So it's a mess. I think it's a mess, and I think the county council seems to have suddenly, become alert to everything, and they're acting on things that it seems as though heretofore they were closing their eyes about, which is not good. But I'm glad whatever the cause is, they have now, awakened to it. Maybe it's politics. I'm sure that's, certainly going to play into it, and people who might be planning to run against Mr. Dooley, although I don't know that for a fact. However, there are problems. They need to be addressed. These things need to be cleaned up before we can move ahead.
Holy mackerel.
And there's a lot of belief that he's still the strongest candidate for
that's what's fascinating. And the other thing that's fascinating is that Mayor Slay is holding fundraisers for the guy.
It is very interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's just, there are always so many alternatives. It's like the Kremlin, for goodness sakes. Politics just breeds this sort of, it's really can often be very difficult to figure out who is, oxing, who is scoring who's ox.
Right. But I mean, so you have labor saying thanks, no thanks to Charlie Dooley. Then you have the mayor saying, hey, let me help you raise some money, all with the backdrop of this police board and this other board and everything else going on. You just have to ask yourself, talk about dysfunction.
It is really a mess, isn't it?
And the saddest part is I don't know if the people are actually paying attention to any of this.
Well, we and the editorial board, you at the radio station, I think there are those of us who aren't in sway to any point of view, although, people will say we are. It's not always their point of view, but we try to alert people to this all the time.
Right.
And the newspaper writes about these things. People need to get out and vote. I mean, that's really, they need to vote in primaries. They need to vote against bad candidates. They need to vote for good candidates. You have to have a representative democracy requires work on the part of the people who are being represented.
You do need somewhat of an informed electorate, or the whole thing falls apart. No,
it does crumble, doesn't it? Now we're going to enter, sequester, and Congress is going to be all, in a knot for the next, I don't know how many weeks, because these people are saying, well, if you're not going to do it our way, we're going to go home.
How about Governor Quinn in Illinois? Says
that is one lucky dude.
How about this guy saying you legislators are not going to get paid till we balance the budget, and they're taking him to court over it?
Well, but meanwhile, his two main challengers, Lisa Madigan, the Attorney General, and Bill Daley, one of the Daley family and a former aide to President Clinton, and who. That's interesting. And you can't help but wonder, well, what's down the line there? I don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen, she sits on the editorial page board. She's Deb Peterson. STLtoday.com/news is where you find all of her writings.
This isn't the platform, huh? We do it news/opinion?
News/opinion. I don't know. It's all confusing. And I'm on the website.
Outside, it's a different coding. So
I go to STLtoday.com, and then I hit opinion tab. And then I hit the opinion tab. And then I
watch you on TV all the time on STL Today as I'm sitting at my desk.
Oh, isn't that nice? All right, good.
It's fun. Yeah.
I need all the help I can get.
Allison Technologies.
There you go. Deb Peterson, have a good week.
Thank you, McGraw Show. Bye.
Deb Peterson sits on the editorial page board, and reading the editorial page has always been a pastime. It's always fun, whether you agree or disagree. They sure do bring up topics that you can certainly talk about. 8:48, traffic and weather. Then we'll check in with Mike Kelly. Missouri takes on Indiana this weekend. Pregame starts at 5 here on the Big 550 KTRS. Let me talk to you about Dr. Karen Boone.